You are listening to Blue Please here on WoW Radio with myself, Total Biscuit, and as promised, I have a very special guest in the studio today. He is the inheritor, one might say, and the current developer of the Quest Helper mod, incredibly popular mod, and his name is Ben, and he joins me in the studio right now. Ben, welcome to the show.
Hi there, it's good to be here.
Excellent. Now, the reason we brought Ben on today is that over the past few weeks, if you've been listening to the shows, and if you haven't, then what the heck have you been doing with your life? You will have heard some debate regarding the new Blizzard add-on policy. Now, what we want to do today is to provide an interesting perspective on the change to the add-on policy and how it affects add-on developers by bringing on one of the biggest and most popular add-on developers in the WoW community to talk to us about his views on this particular subject. But first, we should probably talk a little bit about Quest Helper. So, tell me a little bit about Quest Helper and why exactly you chose to continue its development, because you weren't the original developer, were you?
No, I wasn't. The original developer was someone whose name I'm not quite sure how to pronounce. It looks like S. Marriott. And I think, from what I've heard, that he started it as sort of a research project to learn Lua and to get better with it. Okay. And he got bored and he left. And I was taking a road trip and decided to start an alt in World of Warcraft. And people had told me about this thing called Quest Helper that showed you where to go for quests and automatically told you, the fastest route. And I thought it sounded really cool. Mm-hmm. So I tried it out, and it was really cool and really, really buggy. And that's why I decided to take it on. It sounded like a cool thing, it really fits with my skills well, and I thought, hey, this is neat, but I can make it better. Let's see what I can do with it.
Indeed. Now, there has been a little bit of controversy surrounding Quest Helper, from what I've seen. There seems to be something of a schism in the WoW community and player base as to the use of Quest Helper. Some people, for some reason, treat it as a cheat. They actually believe that it's a way of circumventing the natural game mechanics. Some people, on the other hand, will basically effectively swear by it. They think it's a wonderful mod. So, what would you say to the people that claim that it ruins the play experience or somehow harms the game environment?
Well, first off, I have to mention that when Wrath of the Lich King came out and I was questing in Northrend, I turned Quest Helper off, because I actually wanted to read the quest text, and I know from experience that if I have Quest Helper on, I'm not going to. So in some way, I think that if you think the quests are important, if you think the lore is important, you really shouldn't be using Quest Helper the first time through. Mm-hmm. On the other hand, some people don't care about those. I don't really think it's my place to say that, hey, the quests, you have to read the lore, you have to follow the exact progression of these incredibly terrible plot lines in Classic. Because, let's face it, they're terrible.
Yes, they absolutely were. I mean, Wrath really did do a lot to improve that, I would say. And personally, I did read some of the quest texts, and that's not something that I've ever done before. I think they certainly did a better job of immersing players in the lore in Wrath of the Lich King than they have previously. But what do you think WoW could do better to immerse the player into the game and into the quest lines and into the story, so that perhaps add-ons like Quest Helper are not so much in demand?
Well, there's two really different aspects there. One is the story, and the other is the quests themselves. A lot of the classic quests do a reasonably good job of having story, but the quests themselves are so impenetrable and so incredibly hard to do that you need something like Quest Helper just to tell you where to go. I mean, the Mancrick's Wife quest is infamous for that.
Yes, indeed.
So they've been better in both of those, but I fundamentally feel like you can't jam plot down someone's throat if they don't want it. Someone who's leveling their 6th character from Northrend, they don't want to read the quests. They've read them already. They're just not interested. I don't think you can fix that. I don't think there's anything you can do about it.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Okay. Now, let's get on to the meat of this particular interview, because this is what I've been wanting to hear, particularly from your perspective. Indeed, I've heard there is actually a little bit of debate on this within the add-on community itself.
Yep, there is. There's people from all different positions.
Right, so let's start off with your position then. What's your opinion on Blizzard's brand new add-on policy?
Well, I think it's kind of complicated. I think they probably have the right to do what it is they're doing. I don't think they should be doing it. I think that overall the problem is that they're discouraging people from making new add-ons. They're discouraging people from contributing to the community. And they're doing so for reasons that are, I wouldn't say bad, because we don't know what they are. It's been a complete stonewall.
Yeah, so you have absolutely no idea, or even you don't even have any theories as to why they'd have done this?
Oh, I have plenty of theories. I've heard several reasonably good theories. One person has told me that if they had left this in, if people could continue making money off World of Warcraft add-ons, then at some point in the future they broke what they did, then I could say sue them because I'm not making money. I, of course, wouldn't, but some people might, and maybe they're afraid of that. It's possible.
Yeah, that's certainly a possibility. Now,
I've also heard, let me give a few other examples here. One person pointed out that they've have an exclusive advertising contract with Microsoft, and it seems that they're considering donations to be a form of advertising. So maybe they think that asking for donations violates their contract with Microsoft. I don't think it's a very good reason, but since they haven't told us what the reason is, I can't really say if it's true or not.
Indeed, that does sound a little bit odd there, I must say. Well, some people do actually claim that some of the more militant add-on developers against this particular policy are simply trying to profit off of other people's hard work, and that they view Blizzard's game as, kind of an untouchable piece of, thousands, hundreds of thousands of man-hours of coding, and that anything related to the game itself, nobody should be able to make a profit off of it. How would you respond to that?
It seems kind of silly to me. I mean, you have sites like Wowhead, like Alakazam, like all the major database sites, like all the fan sites, like, the WoW Radio that I'm talking on right now.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. And banning all of those from making money on it seems very short-sighted and very silly, because people do this because they love it, but they keep doing it because they can make a living off it, because it pays the bills, and because they love it. But if it doesn't pay the bills, you can't live on love. It doesn't work.
That's true. I mean, would you say that there was a difference between, say, a website, a fan site that has maybe advertising on it, and a add-on that has a donation link in-game?
Not really. I mean, there's slight difference in where the money comes from, obviously, but fundamentally I think it's the same thing.
Now, couldn't it be said, though, that since it's Blizzard's game and you're feeding off of Blizzard's API, that you mentioned earlier that they can do it, should they be able to do what they like? I mean, let's face it, it's their game, and they do have the legal right to do this, so shouldn't this be something they should be implementing without any fear of backlash or reaction?
It's sort of hard to say. I've always been a little bit uncertain where the line is between something you should be allowed to do with software and what you shouldn't be. I mean, I think most people at least, would agree that something like Glider should not be allowed, which very directly influences the game state, but I think people would have a really hard time arguing that, one of the little plugins that displays your health on a little window on another screen should be disallowed. It doesn't really hurt gameplay at all. It's something that happens completely on the user's computer, and the question is, can Blizzard ban me from making a thing that pops up on someone's computer that they have voluntarily chosen to put there saying, hey, give me money? If I make an add-on whose sole purpose is to pop up a screen saying, please give me money as someone installs it, have I actually done anything wrong? I don't really think so. It's their decision. I'm not forcing it on them.
So you think that the WoW community should vote with their feet when it comes to add-ons, and that they should be the ones making the call on whether or not something is acceptable?
Yes, absolutely. I've heard from people who said that my little donation request really annoyed them and they got rid of Quest Helper. And okay, they don't want it. I'm not going to force it on them. But that's their decision.
So we still haven't really come to a conclusion as to what Blizzard's motivation might be for changing this add-on policy, and we've heard a couple of theories, and perhaps one of the more outlandish ones is that Blizzard intends to start releasing professional-grade add-ons for micropayments. So what do you think to that? Do you think that's just all completely, I wouldn't say a pipe dream, but kind of made up?
It seems like it would be a bad idea to me. Blizzard has been very careful to make sure that you have World of Warcraft and you buy it as a unit, and then you have World of Warcraft. And I think if adding the little micropayments in would start really diluting what they've done with World of Warcraft. People would start saying, oh, he's only good because he has the raid assistant thing that he's paying $2 a month for Blizzard. I don't think Blizzard would do that. It seems like a bad idea on many levels. So, it seems unlikely.
Yeah. Well, your add-on solicits donations in-game. Yeah, via a friendly reminder, one might say. And yes, a few people found it annoying, or so they claimed. But there's a few select add-ons, and one of them actually could be considered your direct competitor, and I'm referring, of course, to Carbonite, that provides a premium version. Now, what would you say, bearing in mind that obviously you don't have a premium version, that the difference between a premium version and a version that solicits voluntary donations would be, and should one be allowed and the other not, or should it be a completely allowed, or a complete blanket ban? Where's the line get drawn on that?
I honestly think they should both be allowed. I think that if someone wishes to pay someone money to write code for them, I don't see any reason to ban that. I never used Carbonite myself, but from what I heard, it was reasonably well built. And, you can do worse than having a competent competitor. It's certainly not something I ever complained about. I can see why Blizzard would dislike people having subscription models, but I think that fundamentally it's something that is good. I think it helps their game.
Yeah, well, I mean, from a legal perspective, of course, it is a legal minefield to deal with pay add-ons, and particularly, of course, since Blizzard owns the API, they do have the right to set in place a terms of service agreement. The question, I suppose, comes from a moral standpoint more than anything. At what point do you think that it ceases to be okay to make money off of Blizzard's product?
I think it ceases to be okay at the point where you're actually modifying Blizzard's data in a way that Blizzard is not okay with. Like Glider, for example. If you're hacking the client, if you're botting, then that's uncool. If you're just providing stuff within the UI framework, I think that's sort of by definition cool, because if it wasn't, they just modified the UI framework so it was impossible. Neither Carbonite nor Quest Helper actually moves the player around or fights, so I don't see a problem with it.
Fair enough. Well, here's a question then. If you had the opportunity to completely rewrite the add-on policy, then what kind of clauses would you insert into it? And what would be your overall objective in presenting this add-on policy? What would you be shooting for? What would you be aiming to happen with it?
I think number one would be, from a legal perspective, would be to make sure that people can't sue Blizzard. I just have a clause in there saying you accept that Blizzard can do whatever they want with the World of Warcraft client and you're not going to sue them. That's just number one. Beyond that, I really would not restrict what people did with the client on their own terms. I think that I just have it be a wide open, as long as you're not hacking Blizzard, as long as you're not actually violating the terms of service, it's all good, have fun.
Now, do you think Blizzard actually does enough to support and recognize the add-on community? We've seen that certain add-ons and certain functionality have been integrated into WoW over the course of a few years as Blizzard UI functions. Do you think that Blizzard simply perhaps allows the add-on community to exist for that purpose, just to kind of fill its gaps? And do you think it does enough to thank them more than anything, I suppose?
I don't think Blizzard does anything to thank the UI developers. There is a mini Quest Helper that's showing up in patch 3.1 where it shows little tooltips on mobs in a similar way that Quest Helper does, and I haven't heard a single word from Blizzard saying even thank you for doing this. The closest it's gotten is apparently at the Game Developers Conference, one of the Blizzard execs mentioned that they were basically copying Quest Helper, and that's sort of annoying, you know? But I've never seen Blizzard say anything along the lines of, this add-on is really cool, so we're implementing it. Thanks, guys, for the idea. We appreciate it. Have some free game time. Even that would be something, and it's just complete stonewall.
Indeed. And has it been a stonewall for the past 4 years? Has Blizzard ever actively gone out of its way to interact with the add-on community?
There's certainly a lot of interaction. Several of the major developers show up in the community and talk to us, and that's very appreciated. I don't want anyone to get me wrong on that. We definitely appreciate having people there talking to us. But it's sort of this weird quasi-allowed thing where, yes, add-ons are okay, but it's always a little bit rocky on whether they're going to allow this particular add-on or not. But maybe that's just from my point of view. Obviously, Quest Helper is influenced by this a lot more than others are. Maybe other people would have a different viewpoint on that.
Indeed. Well, thank you, Ben, for coming to the studio today. Most illuminating. Hopefully all of the listeners enjoyed that. I'm sure they did. Is there anyone you would like to perhaps give a shout-out or message to before we end the interview today?
Not especially. Just for anyone who used Quest Helper or for anyone who donated, I just want to say thank you, because I read all the donation messages, and you guys have let me work on Quest Helper as a job for quite a long time, and that was very cool. So, thank you, everyone.
Excellent. Ben, thank you very much for coming to the studio today.
Welcome.
And ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to Blue Please here on WoW Radio with myself, Total Biscuit. We'll be right back after this. Enjoy.